Welcome back to my Mythical Meta. My name is Travis, and I'm joined by my brother Benjamin.
Hello.
And my excellent friend Derek.
Hello.
What is up? Today we are showcasing the specific cards you should search for, the Aristocrats archetype. And guys, there are so many. It was difficult to actually single cards out and make a list, because in every category they were like, well, we should list 20 cards.
I mean, all indications point to this is Magic the way Richard Garfield intended.
Absolutely.
Because they make so many cards for it.
They make so many cards for this archetype in every set. This is a very well-supported archetype. And we're going to get to those cards and some good beginner commanders in just a minute after our community shout-outs. We've got 2 new members in our Patreon this week. Shout out to Sacco Potato and Brandon. Thank you both, Sacco Potato and Brandon. Sacco Potato started following us at a con a long time ago. So seeing that name in the Patreon really got me excited, because it means, you know, this guy liked us a long time ago and has decided we're good enough to support. And we are, of course, so thankful. And Brandon, thank you too. We're so glad that both of you have decided to take the leap of faith and support us. And we hope that we can continue giving tips that create strong, friendly metas. And our Discord is becoming a strong and friendly meta. And that's really exciting. If you, listener, want information about our Patreon perks, you can go to patreon.com/mymythicalmeta. You can also click join anywhere that our videos are playing on YouTube in order to become a full hardness metapod. You can contact us directly with questions and requests at mymythicalmeta@gmail.com. And listeners, new subscriber push, stretch goal time. It is stretch goal time. We met 1K listeners on YouTube, and so now our next goal before the end of this year, and I think we can do it, we want 2K followers on Spotify. That means that we want all of our listeners, take us on the go. Take us on the go. Put us in your car. Put us on your phone. Whatever podcast platform you use, our RSS feed is hosted on Spotify. And we want to reach 2K. I think we can do it. We want to reach 2K before the end of the year. Okay, let's jump straight into the Aristocrats archetype. And we're going to begin with commanders that we think are good for beginners. Here are some great legendary creatures that we think exemplify this archetype and can do it well. And Derek is going to start us off. Go ahead.
Yeah, the first one we have is Teysa Karlov. She's white, black, and 2. If a creature dying causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. Then she has an ability. Creature tokens you control have vigilance and lifelink. What makes her such a great Aristocrats commander is that she basically cuts your strategy to win in half. Because she's going to be doubling up on your ping triggers to deal like 1 damage or whatever, getting you double card draw, double ramp, you know, things like that. And then also, when you're making these tokens, she's giving them vigilance and lifelink, which are both very good defensive abilities to help you fortify and make sure you're not like shields down, like, oh, let me block and then I'll sack in response. I don't take any damage, or maybe I do and I get a little lifelink back to save my life. There's a lot of flexibility here.
Yeah, absolutely. Those tokens having vigilance and lifelink is so defensive, because you can just block, gain the life, let the creature die, and then get double the death triggers from those little tokens dying. She really is pulling a lot of weight in terms of being an Aristocrats commander. My only concern and my only warning for new players is that Teysa is not a pillar of aristocracy herself. Her abilities are not a sack outlet, a fodder creator, a death trigger itself. Like, if a creature dies with only her on the battlefield, nothing else happens. Right? Nor is she recursion. So she herself does not hit one of those pillars, but as soon as
she's just making a good deck better.
Yeah, as soon as you can start building the rest of those pillars up, she is, just like you said, Derek, is going to speed you towards victory, because all the value you're going to gain is going to be double. Insane. So just about all of our beginner commanders today have black in them, and that is to be expected. because black has all of the pieces you need. But we did try to find some where a bunch of different colors were represented. And here's Savra, Queen of the Golgari. She costs 2 black and green for a 2/2 elf shaman. Whenever you sacrifice a black creature, you may pay 2 life, and if you do, each other player sacrifices a creature. Whenever you sacrifice a green creature, you may gain 2 life. So Savra is looking for you to sacrifice a mix of black and green creatures. What's really cool is if you can have both black and green creatures.
That's right.
And there are a couple of these. Insects, worms, pests. That would be really great to be able to sacrifice both, because you can gain the 2 life if it's green, you can pay the 2 life and bang one of your opponent's creatures if the creature's black. By doing this often, you can keep your opponent's boards clear of their threats. If an opponent is running a token build themselves, you may not be able to keep up. You know, if somebody's got a Voltron or if somebody's got 5 or 6 creatures out on their board, Savra can do some really good work to keep that minimized and keep your own life total at a safe level until you can secure the win by sacrificing those green creatures. All right, do the next one.
Yeah, next we have the Fallout Commander Caesar, Legion's Emperor. This is red, white, black, and 1. Whenever you attack, you may sacrifice another creature. Whenever you do, choose 2. Create 2 1/1 red and white soldier creature tokens with haste that are tapped and attacking. Next, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. Next, Caesar's Legion's Emperor deals damage equal to the number of creature tokens you control to target opponent. So, I mean, already he's with those pillars we're talking about, he can let you draw cards, which is always great to kind of shore up any weaknesses. He's creating tokens, and he's got a little bit of a win con stapled on him too. And if you give himself multiple combats, it's over and over. I mean, this guy is for 4 mana, this guy's doing a lot for your team in your Aristocrat strategy.
And it's important since this is for beginners, you do not have to attack with Caesar. It says whenever you attack. So you can play him on turn 4 and swing with your 3-drop and even sack the 3-drop to get the party started. So very
cool. Caesar's insane. I love this Mardu representation to show that, just because you're Aristocrats doesn't mean it's all defense. You can have an offensive, aggressive Aristocrats strategy also.
I think what I like about him the most is that this was a pre-con deck. I don't know if it's still available, but you could probably find it on Amazon or maybe in a store somewhere. So if you're just trying to dip your toe, maybe you could still get your hands on this pre-con and have the shell of a deck to upgrade.
Absolutely. All right, Benjamin.
All right.
These next ones.
Man, Jund is the color for Aristocrats.
Yeah.
I mean, Jund's quite possibly the most fun colored combination to play. That's black, red, and green. Mm-hmm. And I've got a couple of dragons you can use if you want to play Aristocrats in Jund. So the first is Prosh, Skyraider of Care, and then the other is Korvald, Fey Cursed King. Both of them provide a way for you to sacrifice creatures. So they're your sacrifice outlet in the command zone, knocking out one of those pillars. And then one of them also provides fodder. So Prosh, Skyraider of Care, is a 5/5 dragon that when it enters, you create X red kobold creature tokens, where X is the amount of mana you spent to cast him. So the first time, he's a 6-drop. So the first time you're going to get 6 tokens. That's a lot of fodder.
That is a lot.
Yes. And his sack outlet says you can sacrifice another creature to give him +1/+0 till the end of turn. So he also serves as a win con. You can sacrifice, boost him, hit for commander damage. The great thing is if they kill him, and you have to pay commander tax, that also contributes to the tokens. So when you play him for 8, you get 8 tokens. When you play him for 10, you're going to get 10 tokens. It's really good.
He gets better and better the longer the game goes.
So he provides the fodder and the sack outlet. It's really good. Korvold provides a sack outlet. It's a little different. It's only when he attacks, but instead he gives
enters.
You the...
When he enters and attacks.
Right. When he enters and attacks, that's when you get to sacrifice something, another permanent. When you sacrifice a permanent, you put a +1/+1 counter on Korvold and you draw a card. So he's that death trigger that you're looking for as another pillar. So he gives you a way to sacrifice things, but it doesn't matter if you're sacrificing things to Phyrexian Altar, if you're sacrificing a Sakura Tri-Builder, whatever you're doing.
Cracking and evolving wilds.
Exactly. He's drawing you cards and he's getting bigger. So once again, he's your death trigger and your win con. So both of these are very, very similar. One gives you fodder and one gives you triggers. Both give you sack outlets and both get huge so you can swing in for commander damage. Very, very, very fun. The commanders, they can both be built very similarly. And one of the great things is they really scale with brackets. If you're getting into Aristocrats and you're thinking bracket 2, bracket 3, these are good. But especially Prosh can easily be ported all the way up to bracket 5 because Prosh plus Food Chain is a well-known infinite combo. So easily, both of these are very fun and very high-powered commanders for this archetype.
Yeah. Our last beginner commander for this archetype is Marchesa the Black Rose. Long may she reign. And we have a little bit of blue representation here. I wanted to make sure we found what I think is probably blue's best representation in this archetype is Marchesa the Black Rose. So she gives all creatures you control dethrone, which means if they attack the player with the most life, they get a +1/+1 counter. Her other ability is that whenever a creature you control that has a +1/+1 counter on it dies, return that card to the battlefield under your control at the beginning of the next end step. So she is giving all of the creatures a way to get the +1/+1 counter so that all of your creatures can jump right back. So let your creatures swing at whoever has the most life. You know, it doesn't matter if they block and kill it, then you get that creature's death trigger and that creature's enter trigger with impunity. You know, there's no risk. There's no risk involved to going after the person that has more life than going after the person at the table that has the most life. So again, constant into and out of the graveyard is a great way for the Aristocrat strategy to start seeing a bunch of those death triggers and gaining you value.
Yeah, and I love Randy's Marchesa deck. He's got so many ways to just give things counters when they enter that basically all of his stuff is unkillable.
Yeah.
It returns, it's
Every
already
turn.
got every turn.
He'll
The whole board flops back into play, and you're just like, board wipe,
and
everything comes back.
That's during my turn. And then during Benjamin's turn, he does it again. And then during Derek's turn, he does it again. It's crazy.
Yeah. Insane value. It's very
Plus,
good.
Blue's got a lot of good counter synergy. So, like Herald the Secret Streams, so he's hitting you unblocked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
it's hard.
So just because blue doesn't have much Aristocrats representation, I think Marchesa is doing a lot of heavy lifting and saying, hey, we can do it too.
That's right.
Very cool. We, of course, want to do a shout out to the Aristocrats decks of our past. Like we said last episode, we all have built the Aristocrats archetype. It's tons of fun, and we've done it in many different ways. So each of us are going to shout out and give a super brief description of our past Aristocrats decks. And we mentioned last episode that Aristocrats can work for any psychographic, even Timmy's. And that's what my Kresh the Bloodbraided deck feels like. Kresh the Bloodbraided may have been my first commander deck.
I think so. The first
I
one
think
you
it was
built
my
yourself,
first
yeah.
one ever because I remember building it and bringing it to your house in San Angelo while I lived in Alpine. So Kresh the Bloodbraided is Jund. He costs 2 black, red, green. Whenever another creature dies, you may put X +1/+1 counters on Kresh the Bloodbraided, where X is that creature's power. So Kresh himself is a death trigger that's constantly growing whenever he sees other creatures die. And in my most recent iteration of Kresh the Bloodbraided, I have it full of sack outlets, and then lots of cards that steal my opponent's creatures. So I'll steal my opponent's creatures for a turn, sacrifice it, Kresh will get bigger. So, and that's kind of how my Kresh the Bloodbraided works. Another Aristocrats tool that Kresh has is a lot of fling effects. If I have a big creature, I can sacrifice it, throw it directly at an opponent. And then the rest of the deck is the rest of those pillars. It's getting me cards, it's getting me ramp and things like that whenever I sacrifice a creature. Yeah. I really am a huge fan of my Kresh the Bloodbraided deck. All right, Derek, your turn.
Yeah. Here's one of my favorite creatures is Alinda the Dusk Rose. We've got a deck tech of it. I feel like every time we talk about some kind of Aristocrats or strategy like this, Alinda gets mentioned. They say she's my best commander. I think she's very good. I don't know if I've ever lost with her. She is doing a lot. She's got lifelink. Whenever another creature dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Alinda. And then when she dies, create X 1/1 white vampire creature tokens with lifelink where X is her power. She is just harvesting all the death triggers from the entire battlefield, your opponents included, getting stronger. And then what I'm doing is I'm playing more board wipes than a normal deck would probably have, because I don't care if Alinda gets killed at this point. Or I'm playing board wipes that I'll save one creature. So I'll save
Mhm.
Alinda, or I'll save a different creature and let Alinda die, and just flood the board with tokens. She's one of those pillars we're talking about where she's all about token making, and she also has the payoff of getting bigger herself, where I could kill someone with commander damage, plus having lifelink on top of that when she's huge, and all your little vampires have a lifelink.
That's what annoys me so much. Like, I don't mind her lifelink as much, but all of the 1/1 vampires she makes also have lifelink.
Yeah.
Yes.
So hard to chew through.
I mean, I feel like every time we play that, I play with Linda. I end up with 80, 100 health by the end of it. Probably like 100 tokens. It's a very hard deck to shut down.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's awesome. All right, Benjamin, tell us about yours.
All right, so mine is Nethroi, Apex of Death, which is a 5/5 legendary creature with Death Touch and Lifelink. Whenever it mutates, return any number of creature cards with power 10 or less from my graveyard to the battlefield.
Total
And
power, 10 or less.
Total power, yes, total power. But secretly, this is actually a Shirei Shizo's Caretaker secret commander. So Shirei is in the 99, and the whole point of the deck is to get Shirei out. So what Nethroi does for me is Nethroi is the recursion, and so is Shirei. It's double recursion in the command zone. So that's that's the fourth pillar of the Aristocrats archetype. Everything else in the deck is basically fodder that meets Shirei's condition of power 1 or less, and then a bunch of triggers. Bunch of triggers.
So many triggers.
And the idea is I sacrifice everything every turn and bring it all back. And so at the end of my turn, bring all my stuff back. Then at the end of Travis's turn, sacrifice everything. It all comes back to Shirei's trigger, and just keep doing that. And then if Shirei ever dies, cast Nethroi.
Cast Nethroi. Insane.
Get Shirei back, and also some fodder to keep the thing going. Nethroi doesn't often get cast unless I need to recur something. So I have a bunch of tutors to get Shirei. It's not necessarily winning because it definitely turns you into the arch enemy, and it's a little weak to graveyard hate. But if you like taking long turns, you like if you like making everybody's turn long, because it's like you get 4 turns every go around, because you get to do your thing on everyone's turn until they stop you. It's pretty fun.
Absolutely crazy. And one of the comments from last week's video, they mentioned
Shirei
Shizo's Caretaker. So I made sure to let them know he definitely has the special mention this episode.
Yes.
That recursion ability is nuts.
And so with the deck, a lot of those 1-power creatures that are the fodder are the like 1 mana white creatures that say sacrifice to give something indestructible, sacrifice to give something protection. And that way it's really hard to kill Shirei because you use that, and at end of turn, while Shirei's still indestructible, you bring it back again.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a big chunk of the deck. A lot of those little creatures that sacrifice themselves to get down,
Mr. President.
Yeah.
Awesome. So those were some beginner commanders and the commanders from our past. We think these are a great way to experiment with the Aristocrats archetype. In the comments, let us know more. If you have a special Aristocrat commander near and dear to your heart that we missed, tell us. And tell us what makes it great for beginners or someone trying out this archetype for the first time. For the rest of this episode, we're going to look at our different essential deck building categories. So things like ramp, card draw, removal and interaction, and of course, the essential synergy cards for this archetype. And we're going to talk about how, what we say often on the show, you want as many of the cards in your deck as possible to be doing double duty.
Yes.
We want it to ramp and do an Aristocrats thing. We want it to draw a card and have a death trigger to provide to get value elsewhere on the board. And so that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah, it will definitely help. Now, realize that these are not the only cards you should be putting in your deck. Derek mentioned this last episode, and I thought it was excellent advice, that you don't want all of your card draw to depend on your deck doing its thing. You don't want all of your ramp to depend on the deck doing its thing. You should put in, the essentials in each category, just a simple Sign in Blood or Phyrexian Arena or something like that, to just make sure you're hitting your cards every turn. Your normal if you're going to ramp, your 2 mana green spells, your mana rocks. So, some of the basics, but instead of having, say, 12 mana rocks, if you have 6 mana rocks plus some of the ramp that we suggest, your deck will feel more in line with what your deck wants to do. It will feel, in this case, more like Aristocrats. So
sounds good. So our first category is lands. There are some great lands that facilitate the Aristocrats archetype very well, and Benjamin's going to show us those.
Yeah, so my favorite is Phyrexian Tower. Phyrexian
So
Tower,
good.
yeah, it comes down, it taps for colorless, comes in untapped, but if you have creature fodder, you can tap and sacrifice it to add 2 black. And that's just a really, really powerful ability to be able to add an extra, for the low cost of sacking a token or some other creature you don't need anymore, get yourself an extra mana. It's great. Others, I really like High Market. It's another free sack outlet. Again, it's a colorless land that comes in untapped, but then you can sack a creature to gain a life. It's real nice to have one more way to sack a creature. And then Grim Backwoods is actually really good. Once again, a colorless land that comes in untapped. But if you pay 2 black-green, sacrifice a creature, you can draw a card. And having your card draw on a land really frees up some deck space, and having a sack outlet on a land frees up deck space. And that's what all of these lands do.
Absolutely. I just want to mention with Phyrexian Tower, what a great way to convert one resource you have, creatures, into a different resource you need, mana.
Yeah.
Like to just be able to trade them, and as you'll see throughout the rest of these cards, as a way to convert these creature tokens into different resources throughout the board and different board needs. That is what Aristocrats is all about.
That's right. Yep.
Our next category is ramp. And the first ones I'm going to talk about are the 2 altars, Ashnod's Altar and Phyrexian Altar. They both have sacrifice a creature, : so add instant speed, repeatable as many times as you want. You can sacrifice a creature. Ashnod's Altar adds 2 colorless mana. Phyrexian Altar adds a mana of a color, of any color you need. These are so good. You mentioned last episode the infinite combos available with things like Gravecrawler and Phyrexian Altar. To just be able to cast him over and over and over again. Sacrifice him for a black, spend that black to cast it again. Like, it's really, really cool. Next one.
All right, the next category of ramp is going to be creatures that enter the battlefield and get you a land. So the one I really want to showcase here is Satyr Wayfinder. It says when this creature enters, reveal the top 4 cards of your library. You can put a land into your hand and the rest in your graveyard. That one I like because it fills the graveyard, but there's plenty of others that say when it enters, either put a land in your hand or put a land on the battlefield tap. Usually they're 2 or 3 mana to do that. Otherwise, cheap creatures that can then be sacked for whatever you want after. And if you've got the recursion engine going, you're getting a bunch of lands out of your deck. So it's really nice to have a set of creatures like that.
Yep. The next one is some death triggers. Mana we can make from our creatures dying. We've got Pitiless Plunderer and Pawn of Ulamog. Pitiless Plunderer is a pirate who says whenever a creature you control dies, create a treasure token. So again, we are converting creatures into mana. Pawn of Ulamog looks for only non-token creatures dying, but I think you're going to find that that's not a problem.
No.
Like, sacrificing tokens or non-tokens is fine for most Aristocrats decks. Pawn of Ulamog says whenever a non-token creature you control dies, you can create a 0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn. What's great about those spawns is that they have their own sacrifice effect, where they can be sacrificed to add 1 colorless. So again, you are getting a mana, but it's through another death trigger first. So you're going to get that mana after getting 2 death triggers. I like to call it money laundering. You get to mana launder that 1 colorless mana through another creature first, through the Eldrazi spawn. Really, really cool. All right, next one. Next category.
Yeah, we think mana dorks in general are a great way to do it. They come down super cheap, like Land of War Elves, 1 green mana. They come out, they do their purpose, give you mana, and then when you're ready, sacrifice them. And they're usually 1/1s. Like I said, they're 1 mana usually. Get them back real cheap, real easy, and just keep doing it again. They provide the mana to just keep the ball rolling.
Yeah,
and then
they provide the mana for those early starts.
Yes,
if you want to get your commander out on turn 3 instead of turn 4, well, your dork can do it, and now that your commander's out, you can sack it, and it's fine.
Yeah. And a special shout to Secure Tribuilder. This is a green 1 Snake Shaman that can sacrifice itself to go search directly for a basic land and put it on the battlefield tapped. I like this guy because he sacrifices himself for free, and it could be at any point that I choose, and I can also use him to chump block like we do all the time and sacrifice in response.
Yeah, and his sacrifice is a death trigger that other people can see. Absolutely. All right, Benjamin, you made a specific point to add this one on. Tell us about it.
Yes. So I think there are more than this, but this is one of my favorite ones, and it's Perilous Forays. So it is a repeatable sack outlet. It's an enchantment for 5 mana. It says 1 and sacrifice a creature to search your library for a land card with a basic land type and put it into play tapped. Importantly, this can fetch triomes. This can fetch all your good dual lands and put those into play tapped.
I had not noticed that when you added it to the list.
I didn't either.
I thought it was just search for a basic land and put it on the battlefield tapped, which still would be good, by the way.
It still would be good, but what's great is in the late game when you're trying to repeatably sack things, this 1 mana to sack is actually kind of a drawback, except that you can, over the course of a few turns, get pretty much all of the lands out of your deck because it's not just the basics. It's also all of the lands you were using to fix your dual lands and your triomes. Perilous Forays can take you from, say, 6 mana, because maybe the turn after you play it, to 10 or 11 mana, and really, really launch you into the late game. And you can still sack the creature even if you have no lands left in your deck. So it is also a repeatable sack outlet that you can keep using.
Very cool. These last two on our list are kind of burst mana. They can end up getting you lots of mana rather than just 1 or 2 mana at a time. The first is Black Market, an enchantment for 3 black. Whenever a creature dies, put a charge counter on Black Market, and then at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, add black for each charge counter on Black Market. So after a board wipe, the next turn, it could add 10 black mana to your mana pool at the beginning of your first main phase. So it's really cool, and it's just looking for any creature, which is something that I think is so powerful about it. The next one we have is Mahadi Emporium Master. For 1 black and red, he's a 3/3 cat devil. At the beginning of your end step, create a treasure token for each creature that died this turn. So Mahadi is just watching you throughout your turn to see how many of your creatures died. How many creatures did you sacrifice or whatever? Very cool. I think that's really, really good. And for only 3 mana, I think that's a bargain. Yeah. All right. Our next category is card draw, deck velocity. Benjamin, start us off here.
Man, I love
the most
these
common
cards.
one.
Yeah, the most common one is going to be whenever a creature dies, draw a card. There's so many, and I'm just going to name off a whole bunch, but they all basically do the same thing. Grim Horror Specs, it says whenever a non-creature you control dies, draw a card. Midnight Reaper, whenever
You mean non-token creature.
What did I say?
You said whenever a non-creature you control dies.
No, yeah, non-token creature. Yeah, Grim Horror Specs, Midnight Reaper both do that. Liliana says whenever a creature, Liliana Dreadhorde General, that's the 6 mana Liliana. Whenever a creature you control dies, so that includes tokens, draw a card. There's Fecundity, which is whenever a creature dies, its controller may draw a card. That may or may not be good in your meta. You can make that decision. And then Moldervine Reclamation, whenever a creature you control dies, you gain a life and draw a card, which I kind of like, because a lot of these, like, say Midnight Reaper deals damage to you or you lose a life. I think there's another one that's like something Prophecy.
Dark Prophecy.
Dark Prophecy is whenever a creature you control dies, lose life and draw a card. So a lot of them lose life. So Moldervine Reclamation can get you back some of that life. But there's a whole bunch more too. This is a very, very common effect. Just find the ones you like and stick them in your deck. This is a staple of this archetype.
I wanted to offer Fecundity because it only costs 3. It only costs 3 in
really
green.
Good.
It requires no black. It only requires green. And if you're building your deck to know that you are going to have more death in your deck than your opponents are, then you know that you'll stay ahead. You'll stay ahead in terms of cards. But like Benjamin said, you should consider your meta. Are your opponents, are the people you play with often playing decks like this, like Aristocrats? Then maybe don't use Fecundity and use something else. Another thing about Liliana Dreadhorde General is don't forget about all the rest of her abilities.
That's right. Oh, yes. She probably
There's a reason she costs 6.
Yeah, she probably deserved her own category, but she's in this category because you put her in there because she can immediately draw you a bunch of cards because every time a creature dies, she draws the cards. But she also creates zombie tokens. She also can make each player sacrifice creatures, which is great because you can get draw cards off of, right? Each player sacrificing 2 creatures. Well, you're going to draw 2 cards off of that.
Yeah.
And you go. And then of course her ultimate makes everyone go down to 1 permanent of each type. Backbreaking.
Brutal. Derek, do our next category.
Yeah, next we have these kind of cards that I feel are kind of unrepresented out there. I had an Exodus or Reek Overlord deck that really kind of exploited these cards, and I wanted to share the wealth that they might not otherwise get. These are cards like Corrupted Conviction and Village Rites. They identical cards. They're both instants that cost 1 black mana. They both have, as an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature. So just to cast the spell, we're sacrificing a creature. And for doing all that, we get to draw 2 cards. It's not going to do anything if you don't have the creatures to sacrifice. But assuming, you have a good board presence, 1 black mana and getting a death trigger, which I want to do already, to draw 2 cards, whoo, I'm having my cake and eating it too.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like in your head, you have to think, this card says 1 black mana, get all your death triggers, draw 2 cards.
Yeah.
Like it's not pay 1 black mana, sack a creature. It's pay 1 black mana, sack a creature, get all of your death triggers, draw 2 cards. That makes 1 black mana go a lot farther.
Yeah.
Yeah. The next one is Skull Clamp. Oh my gosh. Skull Clamp is an overperformer. It costs 1 mana for an equipment that says equipped creature gets +1, -1. Oh dear. I certainly hope my creature doesn't die. Whenever equipped creature dies, draw 2 cards. Yes, please. I'm going to send my Skull Clamp like a train through all of my tokens.
Yeah.
And I'm going to draw cards for each one. Yeah, it's very, very good. Next one, Derek.
Next, I want to talk about Diabolic Intent. This is a sorcery tutor for a black and 1 to, as an additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice a creature, more upside, and you just tutor for a card, put it in your hand. Shelf your library. Easy, love it, get all your death triggers. What's to say about it?
About $10. So if you're looking for a tutor that is not $20, $30, $50, and you want a $10 tutor, you can go with Diabolic Intent and sack a creature for
or proxy it.
Or
Printer
proxy.
free.
Absolutely. And just like before, I wanted to make sure that blue had a little representation. We have an interesting creature called Thought Sponge. It costs 3 and a blue for a 1/1 sponge. It has flash. Thought Sponge enters the battlefield with a number of +1/+1 counters on it equal to the greatest number of cards an opponent has drawn this turn. And then, when Thought Sponge dies, draw cards equal to its power. This is a really cool card to, one, maybe surprise somebody with a really big blocker, or just surprise somebody with another body on the board. And then, whenever you decide to sacrifice that creature, whenever you decide to sack Thought Sponge, for any reason, you get all your death triggers plus drawing cards equal to its power. So it's not a lot, but it's a blue creature that's going to help you out if your commander identity includes blue.
Yeah. This one I really like. It's Dockside Chef. It's only 1 black for a 1/2 human citizen enchantment creature. You can pay 1 and a black and sacrifice an artifact or creature to draw a card. So I just like that it's repeatable, that it stays on the board, and whenever you need to sack something, you just pay 2, get you a card. You can do that over and over and over again as long as you have the mana to do it. You don't have to jump through as many hoops necessarily. I like it.
Cool. The next one, I wanted to make sure that red gets a little representation here. We have Brazen Cannonade. Again, a little more aggro version of Aristocrats, but this is still a way to get some card advantage happening. Brazen Cannonade is an enchantment for 3 and a red. Whenever an attacking creature you control dies, Brazen Cannonade deals 2 damage to each opponent. Just a pow, everyone's coming down. And then it has the ability Raid. At the beginning of your post-combat main phase, if you attacked with a creature this turn, exile the top card of your library. And until end of combat on your next turn, you may play that card. So this is Red's version of draw card. Anytime it's not draw card, it's called Impulsive Draw, and they get to exile a card, and then they have 1 turn to play it. So Brazen Cannonade says, hey, did you attack? Then you get a bonus card. And that first part, with it dealing its 2 damage, says, hey, it doesn't matter if the thing you attack with dies. That's fine, because it's going to deal 2 damage to everybody. If you are playing in white, here's another way that white can get you some additional cards. It's called Norn's Wellspring. It's an artifact for 1 and a white. Whenever a creature you control dies, scry 1 and put an oil counter on Norn's Wellspring. You can pay 1, tap, and remove 2 oil counters to draw a card. Definitely a little slower than black by itself, but you do get to scry, so at least you know that the card you're going to get is a good one because you've scryed first. You get to scry, and then you can pay 1, tap, and draw.
Cool. It's a good list.
Again, in each of these colors and in each of these categories, there's lots of cards. We just had to choose some cards that we thought were emblematic of that effect. And the same is going to be true in this next section, interaction. Aristocrats' bread and butter for interaction is enters and leaves effects, because they're going to be constantly watching the creatures entering from the graveyard or from your hand and then leaving. So all of those triggers over and over again, every time your creatures are entering and dying, use those triggers in order to keep your opponent's battlefields in check.
Yeah.
So Benjamin, start us off.
Yeah, I've got 3 creatures that are great at this. We've got Reclamation Sage in green. It says when it enters, destroy an artifact or enchantment. That's pretty nice. A Ravenous Chupacabra. When it enters, destroy target creature an opponent controls. And then a Cursed Marauder is a great example of a whole bunch of creatures that do this, but when it enters, each player sacrifices. And this one says non-token creature, so that's really good.
And it only costs 2.
Yeah.
This is the better Fleshbag Marauder. It happens.
Yes, I know.
It's better.
It is better. I guess there's those odd situations where opponents only have tokens, but normally, no. This is great, because normally in a deck like this, you're sacrificing the creature you just played, and so you don't care that it says non-token, but your opponents, they have to sack whatever they got. So these are examples. There's all sorts of them. When they enters the battlefield, destroy something, or everybody sacks something, and then after it's done its thing, it's fodder for the machine.
Yep. Send it into the factory. The next one, here are a couple creatures that have activated abilities that require sacrificing themselves. So here's Cankerbloom. It costs 1 and a green for a 3/2. That's a big body for Cankerbloom. You can pay 1 and sacrifice Cankerbloom to destroy an artifact, destroy an enchantment, or proliferate. I mentioned last episode Caustic Caterpillar, which is kind of doing the same thing, destroying stuff with its own sacrifice trigger. There are tons of white creatures that sacrifice themselves to also do this, destroy enchantments or destroy artifacts. So look for those. Next one, Derek.
Yeah, I think the bread and butter, the most sought after Aristocrats that's playing red card is going to be Goblin Bombardment. It's going to be in every single red Aristocrats deck. It is an enchantment that just says sacrifice a creature. It deals 1 damage to any target. Doesn't get simpler or easier than that. Just start machine gunning people, death by 1,000 cuts, get rid of problematic commanders or something that might be stopping you. You know, whatever the case may be, this card does it all, and it does it for free. Then, when you're sacrificing those creatures, why don't we get a little payoff? Let's talk about Mayhem Devil in
so good.
Red-Black. This is a devil. Whenever a player sacrifices a permanent, this creature deals 1 damage to any target. So you'll get your triggers from sacrificing the Goblin Bombardment, start dealing damage. If someone else is playing Aristocrats or something else, you'll get their death triggers for you to start machine gunning stuff. And it's just this is a great win con in Red Black. And
Mayhem Devil is insane.
I bet every Red Black Aristocrats deck runs this deck.
I'm willing to bet there are red black decks that aren't Aristocrats running it because everyone's got treasures and clues.
Yes. Especially now that treasures are as big as they are.
Everyone's got treasures and clues. Every land that sacrifices itself. So every fetch land. Mayhem Devil is watching every player to watch anybody sacrifice anything. It's really cool.
Yeah, let's talk board wipes now. We have Blasphemous Act. The old, I don't think I have to say it, but I will. It's a sorcery that costs red and 8, but we're never going to pay that because it costs 1 less colorless cheaper to for each creature that's already on the battlefield. 10 out of 10 times, it's going to be 1 red to cast the spell, and then it'll deal 13 damage to each creature. One of Red's probably the most iconic board wipe that Red has.
I'll give that to you.
I feel like everyone runs it in a red deck. It's a very easy spell. are a very easy card. And recently, Black got a very similar card. It's called Blasphemous Edict. This one is
awesome.
black, and 3. But like Blasphemous Act, this one lets you pay 1 black if there are 13 or more creatures on the battlefield. If that's the case, each player sacrifices 13 creatures to their choice. I feel like that's pretty cool because that's going to hit a lot of, there are creatures that might survive 13 damage, big Voltron creatures. They can't survive sacrificing.
Yeah. I mean, Blasphemous Edict is going to clear out any board that is not a dedicated token deck. Yeah.
Love it. And last, we have the Meat Hook Massacre. This is a legendary enchantment for black, and X. When it enters, each creature gets -X, -X until end of turn. So it's going to get rid of all those pesky, indestructible creatures that you might be dealing with. Then, whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life. And whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, you gain 1 life. So this is just going to sit on the battlefield, hopefully for the rest of the game, and just generate, lots of value, give you a little bit of incremental life gain that might, be the difference between winning or losing. I think it might be an expensive card, but I think it's a good card. It does quite a bit for a deck like this.
Meat Hook Massacre 1 costs $20-ish.
Proxy it.
Yeah, Meat Hook Massacre is so good because it is going to double up on that life drain trigger that we're going to get to in our big synergy section. Like that's the win con of most Aristocrats decks. And Meat Hook Massacre says, I'm going to do a board wipe and your win con all in the same card.
Yeah.
Because after you board wipe, I'm just going to stay. Like what? The design team was going wild when they made Meat Hook Massacre.
Sickos.
As Derek earlier was talking about these instants and sorceries where it's a very cheap card that says, as an additional cost, sacrifice a creature to do something. So in those cases with Village Rites, it was draw 2 cards. Well, we've got some removal options that do this same thing too. Very cheap cards that say, sack a creature, destroy something. So there's Bone Splinters, which is a sorcery. 1 black, as an additional cost, sacrifice a creature, destroy target creature. Wow, awesome. So 1 black, sack a creature, get all your death triggers, destroy target creature. Always remember that that's what sacrifice a creature actually says on all of these cards. The other one, Rite of Oblivion, black and white for a sorcery. As an additional cost to cast the spell, sacrifice a non-land permanent to exile target non-land permanent. So you get to deny somebody else their death trigger if they have it. You get to hit something indestructible or whatever, and it has flashback for 4. So you can cast this spell again from your graveyard. I think that's great value.
Yeah, it's amazing. Okay, the next one I want to point out, this is not removal, but it is interaction, and that is Martyr's Cause. If you are playing an Aristocrats deck in white, Martyr's Cause really pulls its weight. I would say put it in any deck that can support it, but especially in Aristocrats. So it's a 2 mana and a white for an enchantment that says sacrifice a creature, prevent all damage to a creature or player from 1 source. And so if someone goes to Blasphemous Act, you can sack your creatures to save the creatures you want to keep. And remember, so it doesn't target. You can get, if someone's hexproof commander is getting in, all Voltroned up, sack one of your tokens and you're safe. They have to deal with Martyr's Cause before they can kill you. It nullifies trample. Like you're sitting there going, my little token's shaking in his boots because he can't. No, Martyr's Cause you sack it and prevent all the damage to you. So good, and it's repeatable free sack outlet, so it hits one of your pillars, and it's so hard to deal with. It's really good. The other one is removal that I want to talk about, and that's going to be Teysa Orzhov Scion. She is 1 white black. She has 2 abilities. The first is a sack outlet. Sacrifice 3 white creatures, exile target creature. So often you're going to be making a lot of tokens that are white. But her second ability says whenever a black creature you control dies, create a spirit token with flying, a white spirit token with flying.
Yeah.
So for every 3 black creatures you lose, usually through your own sacrifice shenanigans, you're getting 3 white creatures.
Through your own shenanigans.
Yeah. And your 3 white creatures can then be used to exile a creature.
And get more death triggers.
And get more death triggers.
Them.
That's right. So she if you have white and black creatures, she makes a nice little loop of sack plus exile plus get more tokens. She's very good if you're in white and black specifically for your Aristocrats.
Yeah. Our next category is sacrifice fodder. Things to push into your sacrifice machine to start getting death triggers and generate value. I'm going to start us off in this section here, and the mission statement of the cards I'm about to talk about is let your creatures die more than once. Get multiple death triggers per creature. So the first one that I want to talk about is, again, a category of creatures that are like this. It's called Doomed Traveler. It costs 1 white for a 1/1 soldier. Whenever it dies, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. Like I said, there is a enormous set of creatures that do this, that come down for very cheap, and then when they die, you get a token. We'll let that token die. So now for Doomed Traveler, I'm going to get 2 death triggers from him and not just 1. When we were talking about decks with no ramp and increasing that early game synergy, getting your board set up and prepared to synergize, Doomed Traveler is a great turn 1 play. A great turn 1 or turn 3 play as you pair it with more things, so that when I get my sack outlet on turn 4 or turn 3 or whatever, I can get 2 sacrifices out of Doomed Traveler rather than just 1, because it's going to create a bonus body.
Really good with cards like Phyrexian Altar, where your 1 mana becomes 2 mana.
Yes.
Really good.
I mean, Ashnod's Altar, where this 1 creature becomes 4 colorless.
Yeah.
That is wild. Here are some enchantments that look for your creatures to die, and then they create a replacement token. Here's Blightbound. I like Blightbound a lot. It's 2 and a black for an enchantment, and this one's all about pests. Attacking pests you control get +1/+0 and have menace. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, create a pest. Create a pest token. And as you know, pest tokens say whenever this creature dies, you gain 1 life. So once again, we're replacing a non-token creature that dies with a token instead. Abzan Ascendancy does the same thing, except it creates spirit tokens with flying whenever a non-token creature you control dies. Now, Abzan Ascendancy has a little bonus. Whenever it comes onto the battlefield, you stick a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Cool. Give everybody a little steroid boost before they start attacking in and dying, and then replacing them with spirit tokens. There's one more that I want to hit in this section called Requiem Angel. Requiem Angel costs 5 and a white. No easy feat. This is not a cheap ask. It's a 5/5 flying angel. Whenever another non-spirit creature you control dies, put a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying onto the battlefield. Requiem Angel can turn a creature like Elenda into 3 death triggers instead of 2.
Yeah, she's, this
my
card is so
vampire
good.
dies, creates a vampire token. When the token dies, it becomes a spirit token. So what I think is so incredible about Requiem Angel is that it can see all of the tokens dying too. And any token that's not a spirit can still come back as a spirit.
Yeah.
So good. There's a zombie in Theros where it's a zombie. Whenever it dies, you make a goat. So now with Requiem Angel, that goat dies and becomes a spirit.
Yeah. And
like
when the
chain
original
just keeps going.
And when the original zombie dies, you get the spirit and the goat.
That's right.
So,
That's right. So Requiem Angel is, I think, an incredible way to just each creature becomes more and more and more death fodder as the chain just keeps going. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, I think I need to put it in Nethroi.
Yeah, you do. All right. Benjamin, do the next one.
This next one represents a bunch of enchantments and artifacts that just every turn make a token. And I really want to highlight Awakening Zone on this one. It's 2 and a green for an enchantment that says at the beginning of your upkeep, you create a 0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn token that you can sacrifice for a colorless mana. And so it could go in ramp, but I like it because it's creating tokens every turn that you can then use as sacrifice fodder, but it's creating tokens that can sacrifice themselves. So it can skip the sack outlet in a pinch to get you all your death triggers. And it's doing that every turn, giving you something else that can sack itself for free. So yeah, there's lots of token makers. I think Derek's going to tell you about a couple more, but I like Awakening Zone specifically because they're tokens that sacrifice themselves.
Yeah, to kind of piggyback off what Benjamin said, we've got a couple cards. I like these cards because they are kind of like a set it and forget it type of card. They just kind of do their own thing without you having to manipulate it. I'm thinking about cards like Keeper of the Accord. who says at the beginning of each opponent's end step, if that player controls more creatures than you, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token. Then it's also got another ability. At the beginning of each opponent's end step, if that player controls more lands than you may search a library for a basic plains, put it on the battlefield tapped. For the first part with the soldiers, in an Aristocrats deck, when you can sacrifice at any time, it's really easy to manipulate these triggers and make sure that you are getting under that threshold so that way you can get these guys back. It's just free
value.
Free
death
value.
triggers.
And you're getting that on each turn of your opponents. So super nice to just, it's doing its own thing. And then another card I wanted to mention is Ophiomancer, who is a human shaman. At the beginning of each upkeep, if you control no stakes, create a 1/1 black snake creature token with death touch. Great little blockers. And then also, this card wants you to have no snakes so it can give you snakes. So just keep sacrificing your snakes to the trash for the value and keep getting them back. And it's just as long as you're remembering to use up these tokens, it'll keep
my
giving
whole
you more.
factory runs on snake oil.
Yeah.
just shove it in. Yeah.
All right. The last one I want to talk about is Gravecrawler. Gravecrawler is the linchpin to a lot of combos. It just says it's a 1-mana 2/1 for a zombie that can't block. And it says you may cast this card from your graveyard as long as you control a zombie. There's lots of zombies amongst cards that we're talking about or that you might want to include in an Aristocrats deck. And so as long as you have a zombie, you can cast Gravecrawler from your graveyard. So there's all sorts of uses for that, obviously. It's basically as much black mana as you have, that's how much fodder you have every turn. Because cast it, sack it, recast it, sack it. And if you've got something like Phyrexian Altar as your sack outlet, then you can get as many triggers as you want. Gravecrawler, Phyrexian Altar, and another zombie is infinite triggers. So it's great.
Very, very good.
Yeah.
All right. So our next one is our Recursion. Recursion is one of the pillars of Aristocrats, but we think it's an optional pillar. A plate can stand on 3, but it's a little more stable if it has 4. And so we do like adding a little bit of recursion into our Aristocrats package. Derek, start us off with this all performer.
Yeah, here's Victimize, a black and 2 sorcery. Choose 2 target creatures in your graveyard, sacrifice a creature. If you do, return the chosen cards to the battlefield tapped. Whoa, wowee, what a great card. This card is so good.
Victimize is awesome. Oh my gosh, they killed my Blood Artist and my Midnight Reaper. However, will I get them back and rebuild my entire engine again? Victimize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good.
All right.
Benjamin, your turn.
Yeah, I want to talk about these. There's some instant speed ones here. So whenever you need to go off on your shenanigans, you can always use these on anybody's turn at any time. Sack your whole board, bring them back. There's several. The biggest 2 are going to be Second Sunrise and Faith's Reward. They're basically the same. Second Sunrise does it for everybody. Faith's Reward is just for you. But they say, so Second Sunrise is 1 white. It says each player returns to play all artifact, creature, enchantment, and land cards that were put into his or her graveyard from play this turn. Faith's Reward costs 1 more mana. It's 3 and a white. And it says you return to the battlefield all permanent cards in your graveyard that were put there from the battlefield this turn. So good. You sacrifice your Evolving Wilds to get a land. You sacrifice your whole board. You sacrifice everything. Just sacrifice everything. Face Reward. So not only did you get all those triggers, you got your whole board back.
Counterspell.
Yeah. Okay. So this is your.
I'm just predicting the comments we're gonna get.
Of course. So this is your reminder to don't get greedy, right? But Second Sunrise and Face Reward can both be used to have game-ending turns where you can sacrifice your whole board and get back. And they can also just be used as ramp to sack a few fetch lands, go get your lands, bring your fetch lands back and do it again. And so I also want to mention Brought Back, which is just white. It says choose 2 permanent cards in your graveyard that were put there in the battlefield this turn and return them to the battlefield tapped. So it's like a little mini Face Reward. You just get to pick 2.
Yeah.
But again, that can be used very early. If you've got a couple fetch lands in play, you fetch for 2 white mana, brought back the 2 fetch lands, go get whatever you want after that. Yeah. It's great ramp. But late, it can get back a couple things from your graveyard. I also want to shout out Revelark here. Revelark is a bit on the high end. It costs 4 and a white. or you can evoke it for 5 and a white. And it says whenever it leaves the battlefield, you return up to 2 target creature cards with power 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So it's kind of like a Victimize, but you're going to get Fodder back. You can get it right away. If you are using it as part of your loop with something like Victimize, it can, again, take your board state from almost nothing to something pretty big. It's great with something like Brought Back or Faith's Reward to just shenanigans everywhere.
Yep. Derek, do the next one.
Yeah, I mean, as the resident green player, let's talk about Eternal Witness and what is it, Timeless Witness?
Yes.
These are green creatures that when they enter the battlefield, return target card from your graveyard to your hand. They're like going straight to the battlefield is great because you avoid commander attacks and all that stuff, but being able to get a card, which sorcery, instant, artifacts, whatever, that you don't necessarily want on the battlefield, and being able to put it back in your hand, it's so nice. It can really mean the difference between winning or losing a game to get that one bit of removal spell or whatever on an instant and then be able to cast it again.
I feel like Derek clutches victory from defeat so many times with cards like Eternal Witness.
Yeah.
The only reason that Eternal Witness didn't win you the game last weekend when we were playing is because I had a Torpor Orb in my kind of semi-stacks deck. So I was cutting off ETBs at the moment.
Yes.
But without that single Torpor Orb, Derek would have been able to get rid of my solitary confinement and win the game.
Yes.
Wow.
Because of Eternal Witness, man. It's just so good to say there's a key piece, whether it be removal, whether it be an engine piece to get your Aristocrats engine back up and running, whatever. But there's a key piece that's been removed. Let me get it back.
Yeah.
And the cool thing with these ETBs is loop them with your recursion and sacrifice things, and your graveyard just becomes a second hand.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, with Eternal Witness and Revel Arc, you could and a sack outlet, just get back everything in your graveyard to your hand.
Yeah. I want to do this next one, Vat of Rebirth. This is a 50-cent card. I don't know how good it is for everyone else, but this is an overperformer for me. I really like it. It costs 1 black for an artifact. Whenever another artifact or creature you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put an oil counter on Vat of Rebirth, and then you can pay 3, tap it, remove 4 oil counters from it, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, activate only as a sorcery. What makes this card an overperformer is it says whenever an artifact or creature you control, not an artifact or creature card. So Vat of Rebirth triggers for every token that dies. It gets an oil counter. For every treasure I crack, it's an oil counter. It's so easy to get the required 4 counters. Like, that is just not a slow process at all. I almost always have it immediately. And so if I wanted to, on the turn I played it, I could essentially pay 4 and tap it to get a creature from my graveyard to the battlefield, which isn't great, but it is the standard rate.
Yeah.
It is the standard rate for like uncommons to get cards from the graveyard back to the battlefield. But then I can redo it. I can redo it the next turn again for 3. I can redo it the next turn again for 3. So I like Vat of Rebirth a lot. For a 50-cent uncommon, it overperforms for me.
Yeah, cool. In a similar vein, I really like Phyrexian Reclamation.
Yeah.
It's just a 1 mana enchantment. It says pay 2 mana and 2 life, and you don't have to tap it, so you can do it more than once. To return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. And this kind of goes along with what Derek was saying. Sometimes you want stuff in your hand instead of direct to the battlefield. Yeah. But it just lets you recycle your fodder as many times as you need to. And it's great card selection. Obviously, a lot of creatures are dying. It can be done at instant speed, which is great. So if you were planning to do some looping shenanigans or something like that, and then they go to exile your graveyard, you can at least save the key pieces out of there with the whatever mana you have left, and wait till you have some sort of removal for the graveyard, whatever they're doing to stop your graveyard, and then reset to start again. Phyrexian Reclamation works as a way to protect graveyard pieces while also just generally being good card selection. The last one I want to talk about is Dusk to Dawn. This is one of those split cards. Dusk is just a board wipe. Destroy all creatures with power 3 or greater. A lot of your cards are tokens or smaller, like we've been describing a bunch of smallish creatures today. But really, this is here for Dawn. Dawn is an aftermath card, so you can only cast it from your graveyard. And it says return all creatures with power 2 or less from your graveyard to your hand. So just take your whole graveyard, all those fodder creatures, your Ravenous Chupacabra, your acidic slimes, and all of that. Put them all back in your hand and replay them to sack
all
again later.
all of your blood artists, your cartel aristocrat.
Yeah, your Eternal Witness. Just basically, I mean, your Viscera Seer. This could, if they have managed to somehow destroy your engine, Dawn returns it all back to your hand to do again, right? Now there are lots of cards similar to Dawn that say return X creatures with power 2 or less to the battlefield, or return all creatures with converted mana cost X from your graveyard to the battlefield, or things like that. So Dawn is just a representation of ways of the sort of mass reanimation that doesn't necessarily require them to have died this turn like Faith's Reward does. It's just get back a bunch of creatures that you're already playing. You're playing cheap creatures. You're playing low power creatures. We'll get them back. One sorcery to do it. Yeah.
It's very nice. So we are to the last section. This is your win cons typically for an Aristocrats deck. We call this section Synergy Staples, and we are just looking for ways to end the game, but this also includes the free sack outlets that we really, really like that didn't necessarily fit any other category. So first, we're going to do the win conditions. These are the cards that allow you to drain your opponent's life totals down to 0. Cruel Celebrant, Elas Ilkor, Sadistic Pilgrim, which is a legendary creature, which means you could put this in the command zone if you want. You can have this effect right there. Elas Ilkor is white and black for a 2/2. It's a legendary creature. It has Death Touch. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. Whenever another creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life. So again, it's just looking for that cycle of graveyard to battlefield, back to graveyard. Your life totals are going up, your opponent's life totals are going down. In the command zone, that's a great pillar effect to have in the command zone ready to go, and it's so cheap. Blood Artist, Zulaport Cutthroat. Both of these are just looking for creatures to die, and then drain your opponents. Opponent loses 1 life, you gain 1 life. All-Star from Lord of the Rings, 2023 Mirkwood Bats. Costs 4 for a 2/3 with flying. Whenever you create or sacrifice a token, each opponent loses 1 life. Wow.
It's good.
Yeah.
That is crazy. Now, obviously, we have it here for Aristocrats, but this is an insane card for treasures, clues, any token strategy, because it's looking for both creation and the sacrifice, and it's going to ping your opponents on both sides. And then there's Sir Conrad the Grim, another legendary creature. This guy is a 5/4 human knight for 3 black. Whenever another creature dies, whenever a creature card is put into a graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, or a creature card leaves the graveyard, that his ability is confusingly written, but whenever a creature dies, is milled, discarded, or leaves.
Yeah. If it's put in from anywhere or leaves to anywhere.
Yeah. There it is. If that happens, Sir Conrad the Grim deals 1 damage to each opponent. So he just kind of has a flail and is hitting everybody anytime he sees creatures wiggling around the graveyard.
Yeah. In or out.
In or out. Very good. And guys, there's more than the 6 I mentioned. You could keep going. You could fill a deck with 30 of these if you want. Should you? I don't think so.
Please don't.
I think 10 is probably good because you only need to hit 1, right?
Yeah.
You only need to hit 1 or 2, and then the loop you have is going to finish your opponents off. Okay, next category, Benjamin.
All right, so these are your key sack outlets, the ones that are repeatable, that are free, that are on cheap bodies. And so this is going to be your Cartel Aristocrat, your Umbral Caller Zealot.
This is brand new from Edge of Eternities.
Yeah, it looks great. In fact, it looks really good. I was happy to see it on this list. Your All-Star Viscera Seer. If you'll notice in our last episode, Derek was like, "Hey, this fits all of your good stuff for a sack outlet."
Yeah.
Absolutely, on a 1-drop. And what I really like about the Aristocrats, the namesake of this deck, your Cartel Aristocrat. When you sacrifice another creature, it gains protection from the color of your choice till end of turn. So it's really hard to remove your free sack outlet. And then Falkenrath Aristocrat says, first of all, it's a nice beater on its own. It's a 4/1 flying haste, hard to block, gets in as soon as you play it. But when you sacrifice a creature, it gains indestructible until end of turn. And if you happen to be sacrificing humans, it also is getting +1/+1 counters. But that doesn't really matter. It's really nice. It's a good blocker because it has flying and it can be indestructible, and its power is worth looking at with 4 power. So I like the Aristocrats because they protect themselves. Most of your other sack outlets don't do that. So like Cartel Aristocrat can survive a Blasphemous Act, any targeted removal. It's a great blocker. Both of them are great blockers. So you can keep shields up while you're doing your thing. But Viscera Seer helps you churn through the deck. So early on, you may not have the pieces you need, but you might have a couple of fodder pieces plus Viscera Seer. Dig. It helps you dig to the other stuff you need. Umbral Caller Zealot costs 1 more. It says if you can sacrifice a creature or artifact to surveil one. Surveil is so good.
You can start getting stuff into your graveyard.
Into your graveyard for something like a Dawn. Or
and you have the flexibility of doing a creature or artifact. It's a 3/2.
Yeah, a 3/2 for 2 mana. 1/1. Yes, these are really good. You're getting a lot for that extra mana. I love Surveil. It's so useful. So these are, like we said, free, cheap, repeatable sack outlets that come with a nice bonus, either digging through your deck or protecting themselves from removal. Well worth it. These should be in any deck that can support them in Aristocrats.
All right, Derek, last card of the episode. Take us home.
Yeah, we added this freaky little guy named Drivnod, Carnage Dominus. I don't know what it is. I don't like what it looks like. It's a Phyrexian horror who I think basically just does what Teysa Karlov does. If a creature dying causes the triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. It's a legendary creature, and it's mono black, and 3. So it kind of just cuts your time in half of what you need to do to win a game.
8/3.
Yeah.
And
it's got a second ability where you can play a Phyrexian black. So you can play a black mana or pay 2 life. Probably best to just pay 4 life. And then exile 3 creature cards from your graveyard. You can put a indestructible counter on Drivnod. So it protects itself, which is pretty cool. Freaky little guy.
Yeah, I mean, just like Teysa, this is another legendary creature that just gives you twice the bonus for each thing you're doing, which twice the bonus means half the time. It means half the time, half the required number of sacrifices. That is nothing to turn your nose up at. Because I think listener, you'll find that after playing Aristocrats a couple of times, it doesn't take that long to get in your winning position, to get in your controlling position. And with a card like Teysa or Drivnod, takes half that time. Wow.
Yeah.
You'll find I think that they are worth adding to your deck, even though they don't support a pillar themselves.
Yeah.
And you do need to be careful the number of cards that are not pillars that you put in your deck, because Aristocrats needs a card from every pillar to be able to go off. But a couple, like sticking a Teysa and a Drivnod into your deck, I think is not only fine, but speeds up the clock considerably.
At least Drivnod, since it can make itself indestructible, make sure it stays around for more than a turn, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. Because
Yep.
it is going to be a removal magnet for sure. So, listeners, those were the cards that we think are emblematic of the Aristocrats archetype. If you can find cards that can provide redundancy to these effects, cards that have the same or nearly the same effects throughout the history of Magic, this is a very well-supported archetype, and we want to hear about the decks you've made, the Aristocrats decks you've made, either using some of these cards or cards like them. What copycat cards did you find that maybe you like better than the cards we included in here? And if you've made it to the end of the episode, tell us your favorite sacrifice outlet. What's the one that you stick in every deck that needs to kill a creature on command? What's your favorite sacrifice outlet? I think mine is Ashnod's Altar.
Mine is Grimgrin Corpseborn.
Oh, good choice. I've wanted to make a Grimgrin deck for so long.
Mine is the good, old reliable Goblin Bombardment.
Nice.
Excellent choice. So, listeners, tell us your favorite sack outlet to our call for subscribers on Spotify. Put us in your pocket so that you can listen to us in the car, on the bus, on the train, on the plane. Subscribe to us on your Spotify or anywhere you get your audio podcasts. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget that you can message us directly at mymythicalmeta@gmail.com. Listeners, thank you so much. And Benjamin, Derek, thank you guys for being my great friends. Adios.
Hey, guys.
This episode was sponsored by Eldorado Gaming. Use the promo code META for 10% off your order. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. This episode was edited by me, Travis Konishek, and our intro and outro music is by Tyler Heath of the Oh Hellos.